Hey guys, welcome back. This is Algebra 1, Lesson 12. If you're following along at home, Saxon Algebra 1 book, 3rd edition. So today we're going to be talking about order of operations and symbols of inclusion. Symbols of inclusion. Now, in the last lesson that we talked about, you maybe are familiar with things like this. 4 plus 3 times 7, right? Order of operations, we want to do the stuff that's in our parentheses first, which is 7 times 7, right? 49, beautiful. These guys right here are called parentheses. Those are parts of our symbols of inclusion, okay? Sometimes you'll see them as parentheses. Other times you may see things that look like this. These are called brackets, okay? And other times you may see things that look like this. So I only know how to draw them if I say it. All right, so those are called braces. You'll see those, and typically those come about when we've already used parentheses and we need to use brackets, and then we use braces. Some books just use parentheses on parentheses on parentheses. That's okay too, but in the Saxon book, you will find that we use the braces and the brackets. Okay, so first things first, order of operation. Looking at example 1 that we have, and if you're following along at home, again, I'm on page 55. Example 1 here looks like this. Okay, and in the previous lesson, I said that addition and subtraction breaks up our chunks, right? Chunks are broken up by addition and subtraction. Before we can do that, however, we have to do any parentheses that we have first. So in this case, and again, a friendly reminder on order of operation, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We got some parentheses here, exponents here, multiplication and division, addition and subtraction, okay? So we're gonna start with, and in this case, these parentheses actually do mean, hey, do the stuff that's in here first. As opposed to, you may see parentheses that look like this, and this just indicates, oh, hey, this is a negative and we need to do multiplication. So parentheses are kind of tricky. I hate calling this parentheses so much, this part up here, I'd rather call it grouping. All right, so taking a look at this though, we are gonna do that parentheses first. This guy and this guy. Now remember, we don't subtract, we add, and then the opposite of positive 3 is negative 3. So we add the opposite. So looking at this guy right here is going to be 5. So we have 4 times 5. Now, once you've done everything in those parentheses, get rid of them. Parentheses they can be confusing, or, you know, if you got a lot of them. All right, minus, we're going to bring down this 5. This is telling us, by the way, just like over here, those parentheses do tell us times. We want to multiply. So we're going to multiply right here. 6 plus negative 3. Our positive team is larger by 3, so it's going to be positive 3. Okay, now just like the last lesson, we have 2 chunks here because chunks are broken up by addition and subtraction. We have this chunk and we have this chunk, okay? So we're going to do those two. We have 20, bring down the sign, minus 15. Now you may know that that's 5. 20 minus 15 is 5, but for those of you who are practicing adding the opposite, right? 20 plus a negative 15, our positive team is larger by 5, so it's going to be positive 5 is your answer. All right, let's try some more of these guys. Negative 3, quantity 2. Quantity means parentheses, by the way. If you hear me say that, I'm saying, hey, put this in parentheses. So quantity 2 minus 3 plus 5 minus 6, 4 plus 2. Minus 3. I hate it when I run out of room there. All right, we want to do the things that are in the parentheses first, right? First things first, we got this guy here and we have this here. I don't like subtraction. We're going to add the opposite, okay? Within our parentheses here, we have this guy right here is a positive and this is a positive, right? So let's bring this down, negative 3. We have our positives, 5, 6, 7, plus our negatives, minus 6. 6 plus 2 is going to be 6, and once I'm done within those parentheses, I get rid of them. It's times 6 minus 3. Okay, now we still have to do this guy right here. Which team is larger? Positive team, and it's larger by 4. So negative 3 times 4 minus 6 times 6 minus 3. Good, now what we're going to do, we have 3 chunks here, right? We got this chunk, and this chunk. We're going to go ahead and do those. So we get negative 12 minus 36 minus 3. Okay, now we're going to add the opposite. And all of these are negatives if you look. So we've got negative 12 and 36 is 6, 7, 8. So it's negative 48 plus negative 3, which gives us negative 51. Negative 51, good. Okay, let's try number 3, example number 3. If you look at this guy, we've got negative 2. Oh, you know what, guys? I'm going to turn my board the other way. This one's a long one. Let's see how this works. All right, so we've got negative 2, negative 3 minus 3. All right, so we got a lot of stuff here. We can't break up our chunks until we do everything that's within the parentheses first. So I'm going to go through and just first add the opposite to make life easier. Add the opposite, add the opposite, add the opposite, add the opposite. Now I'm going to go through and underline all these guys. All right, so now I'm ready to go ahead and simplify everything that's within those parentheses. I'm going to start by bringing that negative 2 down. Negative 3 plus negative 3 is negative 6, and once I'm done with parentheses, I get rid of them. So times negative 6, because of course, if we have nothing in between there, it just means times. This means times as well. So times negative 2 and negative 4 is negative 6. Bring this guy down here, so minus. Negative 3 and negative 2 is negative 5. And notice the difference between my subtraction and my negative sign. You want to be very clear about that so that you don't make a mistake. Plus 3 times 4 and negative 2 is going to give us 2. So we have this big old chunk here, this chunk, and this chunk. So let's do some simplifying here. A negative times a negative times a negative is going to be a negative. If it is an odd number of negatives, it's going to be a negative. If there are an even number of negatives, your answer is going to be positive. That is important. I would go ahead and write that down. Odd number of negatives equals negative. Even number of negatives equals positive. Okay, go ahead and write that down, star it, flag it. You're going to need that one later. Okay, so negative times a negative times a negative is a negative. Okay, 2 times 6 is going to be 12 times 6, and remember 12 times 6, 2 carry the 1, we get 72. Excellent. Okay, so 72. So negative 72 minus negative 5 plus this chunk right here is going to be 6. I have no idea why my board's not focusing. Sorry about that. Okay, so that's going to be 6. So let's go ahead and add the opposite. We're going to add, and the opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. Positive 5, okay? So now we have negative 72 plus positive 5 plus positive 6. Let's group these guys together. That's going to be 11. So we have negative 72 plus 11. Which team is larger? Definitely our negative team. There we go. And by how many? We're going to do 72 minus 11. We get 161. So we get negative 61 would be our answer for that guy. Okay. So the key here is you want to do everything within your parentheses first. Then you're going to do your multiplication and division, within those chunks. Then you're going to break those chunks up. Okay. Now we're getting into some trickier ones that have the division, right? And although our order of operations tells us, hey, we have we do division after or before, we do division before we do addition and subtraction. Sometimes we have to do addition and subtraction first. Example 4 is a good one of this. It's going to be negative 5 plus 3 plus 7, negative 5 plus 9 plus 2, all over 4 minus 2 plus 3 plus 5. All right, so I'm lazy and I don't always like to write things out every time. So what I do is I first look and add the opposite within my parentheses, because we're going to be dealing with parentheses first. So we're going to add the opposite here to that guy, right? Now what I do is just write right above it what those parentheses are going to be. -5 and 2 is going to be, or -5 and 3 is going to be -2. -5 and +9 is going to be +4. And then 4 and -2 is going to be 2. So now we're ready to write we're ready to rewrite these. So we have 5 times -2, and I'm taking the parentheses away because I've already done everything I can in them, plus 7 times 4 plus 2, okay? In the denominator, we have 2 plus 3 plus 5. All right, so we've got to do our chunks here. We have this chunk, and then we can go ahead and do those, and then we can move on. So we've got so this is going to equal -10, right? Plus 7 times 4, which gives us 28, plus 2. All over 2 plus 3 plus 5. Okay, now we're in a position to be able to add the top and add the bottom. And whenever you get these division ones, you'll want to do everything that's on the top first, everything that's on the bottom next. So up top, 28 plus 2 is going to give us 30. So we have -10 plus 30. On the bottom, we have 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 5 more is 10. On the top, our positive team is larger, so it's going to be 20. On the bottom, we have 10. Now, here's a neat thing about simplifying fractions. If it ends in 0, you can just lob those zeros right off. It only works for zeros. It does not work for 5, 7, anything like that. So what I can do is lob these guys off, and now what I have is 2 over 1. But of course, anything over 1 is just itself. So all we have to say for this guy, it's 2. Okay? Excellent work. Let's take a look at some of these other examples. We've got another one with fractions involved. Okay, so another one for fractions. We have -3, 4 minus 2, minus -5 over 4 minus 3, -3. So here's a use of those parentheses these parentheses here, like this guy and this one here, those aren't saying, hey, you need to do that first. All it's saying is like, hey, this is a negative, or maybe it's meaning they're using parentheses to mean multiplication. It can mean a number of different things, okay? What I would like to do are the operations that we have to do within those parentheses first. This guy right here, 4 minus 2, we could change it to add the opposite if you want, but we all know 4 minus 2 is 2. So what I have is -3 times, and I'm getting rid of the parentheses. So it's 2 minus, and I'm going to get rid of all these other parentheses just to make life easier. So minus a -5, okay? Over 4 minus 3 times -3. Now I'm in a position to do those chunks. So this chunk right here and this chunk right here. This guy right here is going to be -6. -6 minus -5 over 4 minus, and 3 times -3 is -9. Now we've got to fix those subtraction, right? We're going to add the opposite. Add, and then the opposite of -5 is +5. Add, and the opposite of -9 is +9. So -6 plus 5 is going to give us -1. And on the bottom, 4 plus 9 gives us 13. Excellent. Any questions on that one? Let me know, because I think that's it. All right, go ahead and give those practice ones a shot. And if you have any questions, let me know. But I think you should be able to get those from the examples that I've given you so far. So go ahead and pause it, and we'll do those together. So pause the video, try your examples on page 56. When you're ready, come on back. All right, so this is for example A. What we're going to do is add the opposite, add the opposite. -3 plus -2 is -5, and I'm done with parentheses, so I'm taking rid of them, times -5. -5 times -5 is +25. +25. Good. Let's look at B. 6 minus 2 minus 4 minus 6. Let's change these two. Add the opposite. Add the opposite. Over here, we have 6 and -2. That gives us 4. Bring down our sign here. Minus. 4 times -6 is -2. So we're going to go ahead and add the opposite. And you get 6. All right, let's try C and D. Okay, for C, we've got -5, -3 minus 3, plus 2, 1 minus 3. All right, so we're going to go ahead and add the opposite on these guys, right? So right here, we're going to add the opposite, add the opposite. So we have -5 times, and once we're done with everything in the parentheses, it's going to be -6 plus 2 times -2. Okay, and now before we can do any adding, we're going to do this and this guy right here. We get negative, oh, not negative. What am I doing? 30 plus -4. Which team's larger? It looks like our positive team is by 26, so positive 26. All right, last one. Okay, this is D. All right, so we're gonna do all of our stuff that's in our parentheses first. We got this guy here. Looks like that's it. So here and here, that's gonna give us 2. So what we have is -3 times 2 minus -4 over 4 minus, and then here we can do some multiplying, right? This times this, we get -9 minus 13. All right, let's go ahead and add the opposite here. Excellent, we end up with, let's do our multiplication, -6 plus 4 over 4 plus 9 is 13 plus -13. All right, this gets us to a good one here. On the top, we get -2. On the bottom, we get 0, so that doesn't matter what we get on the top. Because whenever we get a 0 in the denominator, undefined. Worst possible thing you can be in math. Undefined. Undefined. So this, undefined, would be your answer. That right there. All right. Any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you for the next lesson. Thanks, guys.